Does anybody watch basketball?
I can't get into it.
Like I don't know. Although playoff basketball, I've watched that a couple times, and it's pretty good. Like if you're watching the fourth quarter, there's like 5 minutes left.
I went to a Pacers game when I played for Indiana, and it was sick.
Was it?
Yeah, I went to game set. I went to two of them. I went to like game. I want to say like game 5 or something, and then game 7.
Wow.
They won game 7. It was sick. Yeah.
That is sick. Indiana Pacers. Did they play out of Indy?
Indianapolis.
Yeah?
We shared the same building with them.
That's nasty.
Yeah, it was kind of sick, except obviously their setup was much better than ours. We just used like the NBA away room for our locker room.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had like a pack the house night there where we got like 12,000 or something. It was sick.
I shouldn't have just ate a pound of ground beef before this. I feel like a slug. I don't know. I just feel like a slug right now.
You're hurting.
Hey, welcome to the Modern Goaltending podcast.
All right.
So, are we about to shoot?
We're live right now.
Okay, we're live right now. Are we publicizing this, or is this a test for us?
No, we're going to post this.
This one's going live.
We're going to build our library.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is this a 10-minute podcast or a 25-minute podcast?
Probably closer. We'll see how long we talk.
We're going to talk for 45 minutes.
We'll just talk for like 20 and then call it, and then make sure I can edit it and post it and everything.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right, take it away.
We don't want to waste We don't want to waste all this time just for us to have to go back to the drawing board again. Not that we're wasting time because we're practicing. So nothing's a waste of time because you're figuring something out. But
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I do feel like if we just keep talking about the same things and messing up the podcast over and over again, it's going to become brain numbing.
Yeah. We'll talk about something else and then switch back.
Okay.
We got to talk. All right. Should we try it?
Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of the Modern Goaltending podcast. We decided we're going to start a podcast in the off season here and just kind of see what people think. We're coming up with names for it, and the name that we decided on is Off Angle.
It's fitting for us.
Fitting for us, yep. Just because, I don't know, do it that way you will.
Yeah.
But we came up with that name on the bus back from, might have been Evansville. Mm-hmm. And, shout out to Troy McTavish for helping us out with that name.
Yeah, he was very excited to help us with this one.
He helped us a lot. He spent a lot of time on that and helped us come up with it. So
he probably wants like some sort of royalty on it.
He's not getting any.
Well, there is no
There is no royalty.
Yeah.
There is no royalty. Good point.
No.
Yeah, good point. We don't have anything to pay him.
No. As of this moment right now, we have 0 listeners.
Yeah, and that's how this one will probably maybe end similarly, but that's okay.
That's fine.
Good. By the end of this, there will be, maybe if there's a couple, by the end there will be 0.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you have any sort of sanity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you're a normal person, you're not going to be listening.
Yeah. Only a couple, maybe. Now,
we're going to talk about goaltending and everything around it and whatever else comes
up. This is just kind of about our experiences as amateur players, college players, pro players. We have a lot of years of, 15 years of pro experience between us now?
Yeah. Coming up on 17 years.
Coming up on 17. Wow. Can we reach 20? I don't know.
Yeah.
We're going to see.
I don't know. I don't think.
We'll find out.
You could.
Don't look at me.
You could do it.
I don't know. We'll see.
You're in better shape than I am.
We'll find. I don't know about that. We'll find out. We'll see what happens. But right now we're at like about 15. We're hanging on to 15 and see where it goes from there.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you are playing next year. You're on the protected list. I'm not on the protected list.
Right. Right. Although protected doesn't mean you're playing. It just means you're protected.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to mess with you a little bit. I'm trying to keep the people guessing. The one people that's listening right now.
Yeah, and by people, you mean individual.
Right. What are we talking about today, Steve?
We kind of thought today just a nice short little episode, but a lot of our goalies have tryouts coming up, and we kind of wanted to talk about tryouts and kind of the best way to approach a tryout situation and some of the pressures that go with that. A lot of nerves, a lot of pressure for almost everybody.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, with tryouts, being that they're in the springtime. It's kind of a unique thing where you finish your regular season, and then like our goalies specifically, they had about a month off, and
at least I want to say they were done maybe mid-February.
Okay, so they've had
a couple months off
at least.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a weird thing where you get a couple months off after your regular season, and then you get thrown right into the fire with a 2-day tryout to make a team that you're not even going to step on the ice for until September.
Yeah.
So obviously it doesn't work that way everywhere. Like where in Canada where I grew up, in the Winnipeg area, all the tryouts were always in the fall.
Yeah.
So your regular season would finish anywhere from February to April, and then you would have 5 to 7 months to train and get ready for tryouts in the fall.
Yeah, develop as a goalie. We talked about this. We talked about the pros and cons of spring tryouts versus fall tryouts.
Yeah.
And I kind of think it depends on the situation. But I don't know. I think maybe for younger players, fall tryouts are better.
I think for players, the fall tryout is better. For parents, the spring tryouts are awesome because you get to financially and
you know where you're going to be, and you know what to plan for. Yeah, right.
You can be more prepared,
and maybe that's why they do it. Like when I was growing up, a lot of times tryouts would be in the fall, but when I got older, to like 15, 16, 17, tryouts would be in the spring, but they would be following a spring program, kind of with whatever organization you're going to try out for. So you'd finish the regular season. Then you'd sign up for a spring program that would go a couple months probably.
And was that program, did you play games?
No, not the one that I'm thinking of, no. Okay, but I did play spring hockey where we played tournaments.
Okay. So potentially you had both prior to tryout.
Right. Potentially you had both. Yeah. Usually it was either spring hockey with maybe a practice or two a week and then some tournaments. Or it was just kind of maybe 3 practices a week.
Right.
And so the benefit of that is you're coming off a spring program where you're on the ice more often, so maybe your game is a little bit more fresh and you feel like you're in a bit more of a rhythm.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you're younger, when you're a kid, 5-6 months of development is a long time.
Yeah, it's huge. We have kids that we work with that can grow 2 inches in that span of time.
It's crazy.
It's wild. So I think there's pros and cons to both sides. But for the kids or anybody who is going through tryouts in the next couple of weeks, I mean, Suey wrote a pretty good article up on our website here of just kind of how to prepare and how to perform during your tryout.
Yeah, that's a little bit more organized. This is more the chaos side of things.
Yeah.
So I guess technically you can get both.
Yeah, and I mean a few notes in here. Well, starting with the first headline is "Be in great shape." I don't know if you want to go into detail on that.
Yeah, we're just kind of talking about ways that you want to approach tryouts. Obviously, in tryouts you want to play your best, and that's what gives you the best chance to make the team. Right. Is playing your best hockey and being at your best all the time, and it's tough because you only have like a few short hours of being on the ice to make an impression. Yeah. Right.
It's not much time to showcase your talents.
Yeah, not much time to showcase, and I think the nerves and the pressure are a little bit added because, you have the coaches on the ice that are watching you, and you have coaches in the stands that are watching you, or scouts, whatever it may be. So I think, you just feel like your entire almost next year is kind of determined by a few hours.
Right.
And that's the tough part.
Yeah.
It's like if you get scored on in a game, it's obviously tough to deal with. But then in a tryout, it's like could be a different level because now you're thinking it's not just we might lose this game. It's now you're thinking, wow, my whole next year is going to look different.
Yeah, I mean, when you say it out loud, it kind of sounds ridiculous. Okay, here's a couple hours of ice time. Show us what you got, and then that'll determine the next year of your life.
Yeah.
Or at least on the hockey side of things.
Yeah, and I guess that's what it is, but you can't really think about it that way as a player, I guess.
No, you can't. You just got to go out there and play. But I think I've really liked this as being in great shape as the first headline on here because that's something that's completely in your control.
Yeah, so the way that we've kind of thought about tryouts is there's a lot of stuff that's outside of your control, but you just want to be really good with the stuff that you can control, which is like he just said, showing up in great shape, but a lot of it has to do with mentality. and work ethic. So these are kind of the thoughts we had on how to perform your best in tryouts, so you give yourself the best chance of making the team. And the first one we came up with was be in great shape.
Yeah.
And that's obviously one of the most obvious ones.
Yeah, but I like there was a note in here that you mentioned. One of the reasons to be in great shape is from a coach's perspective. When a coach sees that an athlete is out of shape, in their mind they're thinking, okay, this kid lacks, or goalie lacks commitment.
Yeah, I mean, I've helped with youth tryouts where the head coach is telling me beforehand, they're like, watch this goalie for me, but I don't know if I want him because he's out of shape.
Right.
Or even like the rumor is that he's out of shape.
And which sucks. I mean, because your job is to stop the puck. At the end of the day, that's all it is. And something that doesn't necessarily involve that can, right off the hop, determine whether or not you make a team.
Right. Coaches, whether it's fair or not, coaches will make a snap judgment on that kind of thing about your character or maybe commitment. But ultimately, it's what the culture of their team is going to look like during the season.
Yeah.
Like kids who are in shape, they're going to say, wow, okay, these kids are going to work hard all year. We're going to have a good culture, which is going to lead to having a good team, and everybody's going to get better.
Right. Coaches like that for good reason.
Right. So they look at that as it's not just you individually or you being in shape or out of shape. They look at it from a team perspective as, if I have a group of players who are all in shape, that means that they're all committed, and that means during the season we're going to do well. Everyone's going to get better. When we have the inevitable valleys of the season, we're going to be able to push through those and get back up and, get back on a roll or get back to playing our best hockey.
Yeah. I think, and another big part of it too is the importance of a first impression,
Yeah.
I feel like it doesn't matter if it's a coach or a boss or really anybody. If you have a bad first impression, then that coach will probably be looking for other reasons to not like you.
Yeah, you're behind the eight ball.
Yeah.
So you maybe get scored on, another goalie gets scored on the same way. He might be like, for you, he might be like, well, that's because he's out of shape. For the other goalie, he may be like, oh, that was a great shot.
It's just like us right now with this podcast. People are going to listen and be like, their first impressions will be like, these guys are brutal. I'm never listening to this again.
Right. Which is, if you think anything else, you need to evaluate yourself.
Just bear with us on this one. We will hopefully get better at whatever we're trying to do here. All right, another note you got here is don't compare yourself to other players.
Yeah. So we have the don't compare yourself to other players, I think, is, at least for me, I remember when I was in tryouts, I'd always be thinking, okay, I made this save, this goalie made this save. I got scored on, this goalie didn't get scored on, or maybe I'm in a, we're rotating in and out of the net, and I watch the other goalie go, and they see 5 shots, and they give up 1 or 0, and I go in and I give up 2. Right. I'm like, oh man, the coach isn't gonna like me.
Yeah.
And I found myself at least always doing that. I didn't really think about that I was doing it. I just looking back, and I just know I did it.
Yeah, and you're doing yourself a disservice by doing that because you're not going to play at your best when you're thinking about that thing.
Yeah, I think it's human nature to do it.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the obvious thing.
It's incredibly hard to not.
Right. If you want to make a team, you're going to think about where you are in comparison to everybody else.
100%.
But you kind of have to have the mental discipline to not even worry about what's going on with the other goalies. Just literally focus on what you're doing.
Yeah, your one job.
Yeah, because if you're thinking about the other goalies, you're not going to be focused on just what you're doing. Scroll up to this one here.
Oh, I skipped one.
Yeah,
maybe I didn't like that one.
We'll see the one that Coach Lotz doesn't like, and that one is work hard.
Yeah, you know me. I hate working hard.
Yeah, obviously in a tryout, there's another obvious one in a tryout situation. You're gonna have to work hard. Like when Coach says do a hard lap, or you're doing some sort of skating thing, it's not ideal, but you just got to go as hard as you can. Like if you're seeing shots all the time, you have to try to play every rep as hard as you can.
Yeah, I mean, just go the extra mile. Like we said, you have...
It's like 4 hours total.
4 hours, man.
Yeah.
It's one weekend of work. So
not an easy weekend.
Control the things you can control, and the first 2 notes on this article are be in great shape and work hard.
Yeah.
Both of those things are completely in your hands.
Yeah, and again, if you're good good with things that are in your hands, then you're going to have a good tryout.
Right. And those two things are a ton easier than don't compare yourself to other players, in my opinion.
I think so too, because the don't compare yourself is something that you may do without even realizing it. That a lot of these mental things, they're very easy to do without even thinking that you're doing it.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, you don't even realize you're doing it. Yeah. You're just doing it.
There could be a goalie listening to this podcast right now who's never realized he does it until we just said it out loud.
Yeah.
That's kind of how my brain works.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
So
it's just so easy to do. I mean, even in pro, I've always done it.
Yeah, even when you're cognitive of it, you're still gonna do it.
Right. Yeah. Even when you're trying your best not to, you're still gonna do it.
Yeah.
The other part that we had with work hard, we kind of feel like it goes hand in hand is body language.
Yeah.
Good body language.
Yeah. Very important.
That's another first impression thing, is body language.
Right. And that goes for literally the time you step on the ice.
Yeah.
To also how do you react when you let in a goal.
Yeah, it's both. So like, good body language is easy for coaches to pick out, and bad body language is really easy for coaches to pick out. Like they know instantaneously.
Nothing pisses me off more. And I witnessed this 2 years ago at a tryout that I was in the stands watching. I had a couple goalies.
Were you evaluating?
I was not evaluating. I was just there as an independent goalie coach, just watching the goalies. There was a kid that I worked with that was on 2 knees in his crease, sitting on his back heels while the play was in the other end during.
Like it was going on.
They were playing a scrimmage. It was a scrimmage.
Like there was a hockey game going on that sheet of ice, and he was sitting on his heels.
Yes. It was an hour skate. It was a 20-minute game at the end, 20 or 30-minute game, whatever it was.
Okay, so you can stand for 20 minutes.
Right. There's 4 goalies on the ice trying out. So 2 are on the bench, 2 are on the ice, and they're rotating.
Yeah.
So this kid had 10 minutes to showcase himself during a game, and he spent half of that time sitting on his heels while the puck was at the other end.
Yeah.
Not good.
No.
That drove me absolutely mental. And when I say he got an earful, it's not like I was like, "What are you doing?" But I did let him know afterwards that that's something for the next skate.
The coaches are gonna see it.
100%.
So, like bad body language. Let's start with the bad, so we can end with the good. So that's the next thing that's the most recent thing on people's minds. Bad would be like you give up a goal, you just kind of like mope around. You know, you're
or
not
look at your D-man with your hands in.
Right, look at your D-man. That's a classic one.
Yeah. Break your stick into 5 pieces over the post.
Yep.
Which I've never done.
Yeah, me neither. I've never done that. And it's just the general attitude that you look like you have. Like, if you're kind of if you're not in the net and you're moping around, you're kind of just sitting down, not really alert. Don't really look like you're focused. Maybe a couple of goals go in and you just kind of shut it down, and you don't really try as hard.
Yeah.
Work as hard. That's all bad body language.
What would be your thoughts on Marc-Andre Fleury comes to mind for me.
Okay.
When he lets in a goal, he's one of the goalies that immediately stands up and skates to the corner.
Yeah.
And which I think is great. He kind of gets away from it. It might be just be his mental reset thing.
Yeah.
But at times you can see himself kind of like, you can see his head swinging, and he's clearly talking to himself, saying like probably some 4-letter words to himself.
He's obviously upset. Yeah, whatever they say in French.
So yeah. So what are your thoughts on if as a coach or from an evaluation standpoint, if you see a guy doing something like that?
Yeah, that's a good point, because on one hand, he's a competitor.
Yeah.
And he's a competitor. I would say that right after somebody gets scored on, I would look at, how they respond right away within, 10 seconds. And it's not always going to look the most positive. Like Fleury skates to the corner, and sometimes he'll hit his, smash his stick on the glass.
Right.
And obviously he's upset. But I think what I would like to see more is after that, okay, now how do you reset, and how are you approaching the rest of the practice or the scrimmage?
Right.
That's what would be important to me.
How quickly the reset is. And,
right.
Yeah.
Can you just reset? Like almost every single goalie at some point when they get scored on, they look frustrated for at least 5 seconds.
But that's, in my opinion, and I don't mind that. As long as it's controlled.
No. Right.
If they're showing emotions that they're pissed off they got scored on within that, let's call it 10 seconds.
Yeah.
I don't mind that. But like you said, after that 10 seconds or 20 or whatever it may be, when the puck drops again, then what's their body language like?
Right. What do you like after that? Right. Yeah. What do you like after that?
Right.
Like, are they still hanging their head? Are they still moping around? Like, what do you think about a guy like Vasilevsky when he gets scored on? He just I think just gets water, but then he literally just stands with his back against the crossbar just looking at center ice.
Yeah, I'd love to know what he's thinking about. But, I mean, I don't mind that at all either, you know?
No, I think there's definitely thoughts going in his head about, what just happened.
100%. Well, I think so. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's also like the best goalie in the world.
Well, right. I think maybe, right.
Who knows what
maybe he's
thinking.
not frustrated at all.
Yeah.
But I think what separates him, obviously, is his ability to reset and get right back into the game, right back into his focus. And I think his reaction to getting scored on, where he just stands up, looks at center ice, and waits for the face-off, is a key to getting him right back on track.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
I think it's also good, too, because it also shows everyone, including the other team, that he's kind of just like, yeah, I'm reset. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
Which I think that's sick. I don't have that in me.
That's something I'm a little bit more cognizant of.
Yeah.
Is even if I'm rattled, just trying not to look rattled.
You're very good at not letting anyone, especially the other team, know that you're rattled.
Yeah, but it depends on what I'm rattled about. Getting scored on will rattle me.
Right. Like a player from another team can come up to me and be like, "Lotsy, you're rattled." I could be like, "I'm not rattled."
Yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
I'd be like, whatever.
Let's go.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Yeah, right.
I don't think you're doing that.
Center ice right now. No. So, what would you consider good body language being?
Well, for one, I love what you brought up about Vasi.
Yeah.
I think that's sick. I think that's the best way to do it. I think I don't want to say no emotion, but not showing the least amount of emotion as possible.
Yeah.
When something bad happens, I think is a really good thing.
Yeah.
So for after a goal, I'd say that's kind of what I wish I was better at, and that I love to see from other goalies.
Yeah.
Another good sign of good body language.
Yeah.
Let's say right from when you step onto the ice, what are you doing?
I'm saying. Well, I mean, like you want to obviously you're warming up and stretching, and you're getting
100%.
You're getting ready to go.
If I see a goalie step onto the ice while everyone else is kind of messing around, talking to each other, maybe just skating laps straight-legged, and I look over into the neutral zone, and a guy steps on the ice, puts his bottle on the bench or whatever, and he immediately starts stretching and going into movement. That for me is excellent.
Okay, he's getting ready to go. Yeah. I would agree with that. I would say we talked about after getting scored on, being ready to go for the next shot. Even if it's in a drill, you're right back up. You're ready to go.
Yep.
I thought about when you're not in the net that your intent. You look like you're paying attention, like you are paying attention. You're ready to go in when it's your turn. When the other goalie waves you, hey, you're going to switch in a second. You're just ready to go.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like I'm ready to go. I'm just focused. I'm ready to get in there.
Yep.
Obviously, when you're in there, you're doing your thing. You're competing. And then if it doesn't go well, you get out. You're just ready to go again.
Right. Yeah.
I had that, and then when coach is talking, look at the coach.
Yeah.
And maybe listen and nod your head a little bit, maybe when they're talking, so that you signal to them that yes, what you're saying makes sense, and I understand what's going on.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, I've always thought about that. I've never been really in those shoes where I'm like standing in front of a whiteboard before. Maybe a couple times, but not very often.
Right.
But I've always thought about that too. Like if I was a coach and I was talking to 20 different players on the ice and I look back and everyone was not paying attention, for one, I'd get pissed off and I'd probably start bag skating guys.
Yeah.
But no, I would feel like what I'm saying isn't making sense. And that would frustrate me. And I think the last thing you want to do as an individual, especially when you're trying to make a team, is piss off or frustrate a coach.
Yeah, exactly. Because you want them to know, A, I'm paying attention, and B, when the drill actually happens, you want to know where the shots are coming from.
Yeah. I know what's going on.
And maybe there's a goalie touch in there where you have to play a puck.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure you know what's going on with that too.
Right.
So you want to understand what's going on, but the big thing is you want to show that you're paying attention.
Right. Another note on here, let mistakes go.
Yeah, we had let mistakes go on here. This is kind of similar to what we just talked about, but obviously everybody's going to make mistakes in tryouts, games, whatever. But everybody out there, like everybody in any sport at any level is going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
But I think what coaches are really looking for is maybe not if you make a mistake, they want to see how you bounce back from it, because they know everybody's going to make a mistake over the course of the season. But the players who bounce back the best are the ones that are going to make up a successful team. And it goes back to culture.
Yeah. Yeah. My goalie coach back home, who coached me from the time I was, 7 years old until 16, still talk to him. You just kind of deal with the mental side of things now.
Yeah.
one of the things that's always stuck with me that he said to me is, and in regards to a tryout specifically, was just go there, and if you let in a goal, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Because if you worry about it, you're going to let in 2 and then 3 and then 4 in a row, and that's not what you want.
No.
It's okay to let a goal in, but
Yeah.
you don't want to be letting in 2, 3, 4 goals in a row. You got to be able to let it go.
And it's, again, you have to reset. It's about resetting. And I think the reason, like we talked about a little bit earlier, the reason tryouts it's so hard to do is because you have a microscope on yourself because there's so many people watching. It's like there's scouts in the stands, there's the head coach on the ice, whatever. There's coaches in the stands, all evaluating everybody's play.
Yeah.
So when you make a mistake, you feel like there's such a magnifying glass on you, and you can immediately go to, what is coach thinking about that mistake I just made?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe he doesn't want me on the team anymore
Right.
because I just gave up that goal.
Yeah,
And that's
you
a
can't
tough
think
part.
like that. It's so hard, but you can't think like that.
I mean, you've been at NHL camps, and you have, I don't know, who's the head coach when you were at this? Dan Bilesma was one.
Dan Bilesma, Willie Darnay. Not just
All right, so you got those guys on the ice, and then you look up in the stands, and there's 35 guys with clipboards.
yeah, at least yeah.
At least, right? So it's you've been in those shoes.
And I didn't handle it very well. But I didn't know I wasn't handling it very well
Right.
until I gained experience in pro.
Right. This
to
is
be
all
honest.
from experience. So how are you handling it then, and what would you do now? What would you say now?
Then I was probably just trying to do too much, you know?
Because you're thinking about, what are all those guys thinking about me?
Let's put it this way, okay? I was on the ice as basically the 5th goalie. Half the team was gone to San Jose for a game. The only
Right.
players that were left back was literally the starting lineup for the Canucks
Yeah.
and me.
Those are some tough shots to face.
So yeah, so it was me and Ryan
the
Miller.
Sedin twins come down and go back tic-tac-toe 6 times and score.
We worked on power play, bro, with no PK. So it was just them going through the motions.
5-on-0? Nice.
Dude. You'll know how much this aggravates me looking back. Think about a low to high play where Alex Edler's on the top of the umbrella,
Yeah.
and he's just taking one-timers from like the half wall pass.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
I would literally stand 3 feet on top of my crease when he was taking that one-timer
out?
shot. Yes.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Like, we're not talking heels on top. We're talking heels 3 feet on top.
Right.
Because I was so scared and nervous to get scored on
Yeah.
that I was like, oh, I got to come out and make this save.
Right.
I can't get scored on or I'm going to get cut. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
So, yeah, I mean, how would I handle it now is obviously,
Yeah.
for one, I wouldn't just stand 3 feet on top
Well,
of my
you
crease.
play
I would just-
differently, but I'm saying mentally, you wouldn't worry about that.
Mentally, I wouldn't worry about it. I would just go there and play, you know?
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, if I did those 2 first headlines that you have in this article, and that's be in great shape and work hard, I would know that I've done everything I can, and this
Yeah.
is my game, and I would just have confidence in it.
100%.
You know? And if I get
Yeah.
scored on, I get scored on.
Yeah.
You know? But at
Yeah.
least I know that I'm playing the way that I believe is the right way to play, and I'm
Yeah.
not trying so hard to make the save that I'm putting myself in a bad position.
Right. You just play your game, and then the nice thing about there is which, I mean, I guess we have a lot of places, but now that's what we do. If the goalie coach sees something in your game that, like, hey, we could work on this, he'll tell you.
Yeah.
And then you just work on that when you can, but you don't have to, you don't have to do anything crazy, even though maybe you'd come from the dub at that point.
Yep.
So you're used to seeing junior shots, and now you're at NHL shots, and it's like, I got to try harder to make saves.
Yeah, 100%.
That's
That's all it was.
You really don't, though.
And honestly, at that point in my career, I mean, we're talking about, I think I was 19 or 18 years. No, I was 19 years old.
Yeah.
You know, I was probably just in a position where I probably just wasn't good enough to be on the ice with those guys. And I probably somewhere in my head knew it, and I let myself get in my head. And that's what created the monster that came out 3 feet outside his crease from a shot from the point with no screen and just...
Like, you would just easily catch that now.
Right. But then I'm looking down the ice, and I've told you about this. Ryan Miller's on the other side during a flow drill. It's like a 2-on-0 with the Sedin twins coming down, and he's like in the middle of his crease, not even going down, making nasty hand saves.
Just ready, just set.
Yeah, seam passes. He's ready.
Yeah.
He's just seeing everything. He's just
That's just called experience.
experience, and he's not. He had confidence because he had the experience to have confidence.
Right. And he knew he was going to be on the team.
Well, that too.
It's
yeah.
easier. It's
Yeah.
easier when you know you're going to be on the team.
Jacob Markstrom was there with him, you know, so it wasn't like he didn't have somebody competing with him. But at that time, Jacob Markstrom, that was like the year before he
got really good.
Got really good. He was highly touted at that point because he was first round pick to Florida.
Yeah,
I
and
think
he was
it
like an 18-year-old NHL goalie or 19.
Right, and then story for another day, but him during practice is mental too. He's so good. It's stupid.
That's good.
You talk about making the game look easy. Ryan Miller and Jacob Markstrom, man. Those guys were, I mean.
But Markstrom probably relied on a little bit more of his like work ethic and athleticism.
He did. Like he would go down on shots that like I would go down on, whereas Ryan Miller was standing up.
Miller time just like, oh, I know where this is going.
Right, but different stages of their career.
Right. Yeah. Very different ages, different stages.
I would be curious to see how Markstrom plays now in situations like that, in just like a flow drill during practice.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
You know, is he still like that, or is he more like Ryan Miller?
Right. That would be really interesting to know.
Yeah.
All right, we got a couple more left. These kind of go hand in hand with what we talked about a little bit. Yeah.
This is basically me. This is me at the Canucks.
So this one's gonna sound weird, but the next one is don't try too hard.
Yeah. Don't come out 3 feet on top of your crease.
Like a lot of time when you're at tryouts, you're like, okay, I got to make every save. So now you're thinking you got to try harder to make the saves. Whereas all the training that you've done in practices and even in games, you've done at a certain level of mental intensity and physical intensity. So you know how to make the saves. Your subconscious knows how to make the saves.
Yeah.
But when you go out there and you're like, oh, I got to try even harder to stop the puck, you're just going to take yourself off.
This is something that's very hard to do.
This is really hard to do.
Yeah, because you want to make this team so bad, so you're like, I got to do everything I can.
Yeah.
But by doing that, you can do it could be a negative.
It does, and it also, weirdly enough, goes hand in hand with what Hellebuck said about feeling like he had to win the game for his team.
Yeah, 100%. It's the exact same thing.
So even the Vezina winner has struggles with this.
Yep, and it's the same thing as the Stuart Skinner highlight.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
He let in 2 goals in 5 minutes, and then they came down, what was it, like 3 minutes left in the game. They go up 5-4, and they just ice burn him 5-4 while
which
he's
is the worst.
way out of position out of his crease.
Because he just got scored on, and now he's feeling like, okay, I don't want to get scored on the next one. Yeah. And so now he's challenging out super far, and he's taking himself out of position. Once you get scored on, you can't think, okay, I don't want to get scored on again. You just got to reset and then be mentally clear.
Yeah.
And if you get scored on next shot, but you're mentally clear and you're focused, whatever, then you let that go, and then you go into the next one.
And
it's okay.
I like that guy's odds better than the guy who's trying too hard to make a save because he just let one in.
Like, we're not saying be lazy. We're
No.
not saying don't move around the net. You should be moving intensity. You should be working hard.
Yeah.
But there's that extra gear sometimes in your mind where you're like, I got to try super hard to stop this puck.
Right.
And you don't want to be there. Just play your game.
I think, and goalies of all ages and levels, including, we can be talking about a 12-year-old kid playing single A hockey to an NHL goalie. They're guilty of it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
It happens during playoffs and it happens during tryouts.
It just happened to 30-year-old Connor Hellebuck in playoffs.
Yeah.
Because he said basically he wanted to win so bad that he felt like he needed to do
he needed to
win the game for his team. Whereas I feel like maybe in regular season when he does win the games for his team, he's just kind of like, oh, I'm just going to stop the pucks as best I can, and we'll see what happens.
Yep. That kind of falls right into trust your game.
Yeah. So the next one is trust your game. I mean, assuming that you've done all the work, you've done the training, you've done the off ice, you've done everything you could to get better every practice and every game. You've done the work. Now you just trust it.
Yeah, and that's the beauty part about taking care of those things that are in your control.
Yeah.
Is I know for myself, and I've talked to other goalies as well. When the conversation happens of where does confidence come from, it comes from taking care of those things that are in your control.
Right.
When you know that, then you're not going to be trying extra hard because you say you didn't work out all summer and you're like, oh, I've got to try extra hard now, because in your mind you didn't put the work in.
Yeah, when you cut corners.
Right.
And if you do, you have nothing to lean on when you need it most.
Right.
Like when you need your best game, you need your best focus, and the way you get that is just to be able to trust it.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have anything to lean on, you are like you said, you're gonna try harder, and you're not going to be in your best focus.
Because you're not ready.
Right. So then what's going to happen is you're going to try to force yourself to be focused, or even in general, even if you have done the work, you might force yourself to be focused, and I don't think that that's how you get focused. I think you just let yourself be focused.
Yep.
If you try to force yourself to be super duper focused, it's going to evade you.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be like, I'm trying so hard to be focused. How come I'm not focused? Then you're thinking about why you're not focused, and then now you're not going to be focused, and It's just all kind of
it's a slippery
it's a slippery slope, and it's a very easy slope to fall down depending on the situation
it's
of the game.
Steep too.
It's steep.
Yeah, you fall down that thing pretty
You can be
quick.
further down that thing. You can be further down that creek without a paddle than you even realize.
Yeah, 100%.
It's very easy. I mean, all the stuff we're saying is obviously much easier said than done.
Yeah, like we said earlier, like all the mental side of what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
It's extremely difficult to do,
Yeah.
and people making millions of dollars in the National Hockey League do it.
Right. Because we're all human beings.
Right, but to be at least aware of it, I think is the first step.
Yeah.
So that, say you're a kid listening to this podcast right now and you have tryouts the next day, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Maybe you go into it with, okay, like I've done the work.
Yeah.
So now I'm just going to go out there and play like I always do.
Like, have fun. Go out there and just have fun.
Yep.
Because that's when you're going to be at your best, because you're not going to be thinking, you're just going to be playing, and that's where you want to get to be in your focus.
Be respectful, have good body language, and just trust your game.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully this makes those with tryouts feel a little bit better about going into their tryout.
I think if I were someone going to tryout, it would,
Yeah.
I think even just from myself, just you and I talking about it, I would feel better. If I was going into a tryout right now, I'd feel incredible.
There's going to be nerves no matter what if you care about making the team.
100%.
It's just about how you can manage it and how you can manage your mentality. Like, even if you've done all the work, there's still going to be some nerves, but you can still choose to trust your game. You can still choose to have good body language. You can choose to let mistakes go. Mm-hmm. All that, obviously, as best you can.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even with all this being said, you might just wake up and just not feel your greatest.
Yeah.
That's another part of it too. And you've talked to me about this multiple times. I ask you in the morning, how you feeling? Not the greatest, but I'll be all right.
Yeah.
You're not this is probably a conversation for another day as well.
Yeah, we can get we'll make note of this.
But it's reality that there might be a goalie that listens to this podcast before their tryout. They wake up that day and they just don't feel that good.
Yeah.
Or maybe they don't even realize it till they get on the ice.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world.
No, you can't even give any power to that.
No, you can't, because it's out of your control. You know?
It's out of your control, and the more you're like, I don't feel good, the more that you're gonna try to get yourself focused because you want to counteract it. Then you're gonna take yourself even further off. So just even if you're not feeling good, just let it go. Don't let that thought occupy your mind. Just be confident.
It could be triggered by something as simple as the first shot of the day during your tryout hits you in the face.
Yeah,
from a buddy. From a guy knows you're trying to make this team, and he just peppered you in the mask.
Right.
Yeah. It could be as simple as that triggers you to be like, oh, that's not how I thought this would go, and then all of a sudden, you're going downhill.
You went right to getting hit in the face. I was thinking maybe you just give up a wrister from above the tops of circles.
Well, both,
but that's right.
Both, both are examples of probably from my experience where I've been like, I have it preset in my mind how this is going to go, and it doesn't go that way, and then from there, I just become. Mentally, I just lose it. You know? You can't be that way.
No.
So hopefully, someone listening to this podcast, if they go through something like that, they don't have to go through the experiences that I had to go through, and you, I'm sure at some point had to.
And part of it is experience, and you're not going to be. No one's going to be perfect at any of this.
No.
I mean, we didn't realize this without 15 years of pro experience.
Exactly.
So, yeah, and if if you find yourself thinking too much or whatever, then that's okay, just because everybody's going to at some point. Everybody's going to. Doesn't matter how good you are, whether you're the NHL Vezina winner or who you are. Everybody's going to find themselves thinking more than they should at some point. But go out there, trust the work. You've done the work. Have fun. Enjoy the game. Let everything fall where it will.
Yeah.
And if you play your best game, that's all you can worry about.
Yeah.
If you did everything you could, whether you felt super focused or not, if you did everything you could at the end of the day, then you should be proud of yourself and you should be happy with what you did.
100%.
And then you learn from it, whatever.
Yeah.
And you keep going forward.
That's all you can do, man. That's it.
And tryouts are never the end of the world.
No, they're not. Been cut multiple times.
Same. Jeremy Swayman was cut when he was 16 from his team. Yep. And now he's in the second round of playoffs, starting for the Boston Bruins. So
yeah.
That's pretty good.
There's numerous examples of it, But I mean, obviously everyone wants to make the team that they're trying out for, but it's just not the end of the world if you don't.
If you didn't care about if you didn't make the team, then
you would have problems.
Yeah, then you have a bigger problem.
I recommend not playing.
Yeah, this is all with the assumption that everybody cares about the team they're making.
Right, exactly. And I would like to think if someone made it through this point of this podcast that they do care about their tryout and making the team.
Yeah, I think they care about their there's a couple things we said to people at this point in the podcast.
All right, man. What do you think?
I think that's all we got on this for today.
Yeah. If anyone's still listening, we appreciate you guys tuning in, and hopefully we can get better at this ourselves as we keep working at it here, and we appreciate you for supporting us and listening.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening to our first episode. Could be the first and last episode.
Could be.
We'll see.
The Off Angle Podcast.
Right, Off Angle. So
Off Angle.
That's our podcast. Thank you everybody so much for listening, and we'll see you hopefully next time.
Yes, sir.